Hi everyone, Bobby Sanabria here, Co-Artistic Director along with Elena Martinez of The Place to Be, the BMHC, the Bronx Music Heritage Center. This week on Percussion Discussion, our guest is the one and only Lucianna Padmore. Bronx born and bred, she's a graduate of the prestigious LaGuardia High School for the Performing Arts and an alumnus of the New School for Jazz and Contemporary Music program at the New School University. So let's welcome Lucianna Padmore here to Percussion Discussion. Modern Drummer hails her for her great, fantastic jazz and fusion chops. So you're in for a big treat.
Hello everyone. My name is Lucianna Padmore, and thank you for coming to my percussion discussion. Thank you to Bronx Music Heritage Center for setting this up and having me be a part of it. Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Bobby Sanabria, fellow drummer. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about being musical on the drums. I kept trying to figure out how to express that, or how to kind of make my point, get my point across to anyone and everyone who's listening, and who'd like to hear my point of view on what I think that means. I have chosen two tunes, one being a jazz tune, and another being a funk tune, due to the fact that I play those styles quite a bit. I've chosen My Shining Hour due to the fact that we just lost the great Jimmy Cobb, and I think we'll start there. For those who aren't familiar, I'm gonna have them play a little snippet of My Shining Hour from the John Coltrane quartet with Wynton Kelly on piano and Paul Chambers on bass, and Jimmy Cobb on drums, and John Coltrane on tenor. And then we'll be right back. So you heard a little bit of that tune, and you heard the melody, I'm sure. And let's start at the melody, or the concept of playing the melody on the drums. Being that the drums is such a rhythmic instrument, I think that sometimes we forget that we can be melodic as well. There's plenty aspects of the instrument that's melodic, as well as rhythmic by nature. But trying to be as unlimited as you can be on the drums makes it a very fun experience. I think of that melody, and I would take the melody first if I'm playing a jazz tune like My Shining Hour, and just try to play the melody on the toms and on the cymbals, and with my feet, between my feet and my hands, in some way, to try to convey that I'm playing the melody. So it could be playing the rhythm of the melody, or trying to find tones, I would try to figure out a way to play the melody so that those who are playing with me, my bandmates, would know, oh, she's playing the melody. Okay, cool. So we know where she is. Or if I were to play a solo and I venture away from the formal structure of the tune and I kind of go free, I could use the melody to bring us back in, you know, and it would be like a anchor, throwing the band an anchor. Okay, this is where we are, this is where we're going, let's go. And I consider that an aspect of being musical. You know, you find a way to make it feel like the tune. You know, you make the melody a foundational part of how you can get around and move around within the structure of the tune, and it, for all intents and purposes, is a very good safeguard way of moving about within the tune. So, you know, you play some time. Another musical aspect would be to make it feel like the feeling that you got when you first heard the tune. You know, for me, when I listen to the tune, I feel a bounce. You know, it has a danceable bounce to it. So it made me feel like, oh, okay. So I would think if I'm going to be musical about playing this song, I'm going to try to make it bounce like that, you know? You're trying to make it feel like you first heard it, and that's super musical. And most times when it feels that good, everybody else is kind of like a contagious thing. Everybody else is going to feel it too. They're going to be like, oh man, that feels great. That feels so nice. It has that bounce. It has that thing, that good feeling in there. And that's going to make you play a certain way. It's going to make you interpret what you play. Because now you're going to be thinking, dance, you know, musical, danceable. That's huge when it comes to being musical, I think. I think oftentimes we forget that this instrument especially is very highly, or I could even say married to the aspect of dance. So why not honor that aspect of this instrument and honor the association that it has with making people dance, you know? So yeah, make people dance, you know, be musical, have fun with the instrument, you know, look at different aspects of how it functions, you know? Learning different rudiments and figuring out what feels good within the tune that you're playing and the style that you're playing helps make it musical. And keeping that dancing aspect, that bounce, you know, for this particular tune and others, you know, different kinds of swing. When you're playing jazz tunes, different kinds of movement that goes along with the way the tune is felt and internalized will help you make it very musical and will convey a message that I think will be extended out to whomever is experiencing, watching you perform that song. And it'll be a return as well, because it'll feel so good. It's just one of those things. It's like it feels good, it transfers, and then it brings it right back to you. You'll feel good, they'll feel good, everyone involved will feel good because it feels so nice. So I would think one thing about being musical is keeping aspects of the tune that make it so magical. If you are playing a cover of something someone else composed, or if you're trying to analyze and trying to convey a message that someone composed. Say someone brings you a piece of music and they say, okay, well, the vibe is like this. and they say, well, the vibe is like my shining hour. You know that tune? And you say, oh, okay, okay. Now you can think about the aspects of it. Okay, cool. Oh, okay, God was playing kind of like this, and he had a bounce going on, so they kind of want something to feel a little bit like this. And you have a basis point for where you can start and venture off into, you know, putting your stamp on it with the help of the greats before us. So yeah, I would say that would be one aspect of being musical. Definitely the feel of a tune, you know. Ways with the feel of that tune, you know, and that alone is one aspect of being musical while playing the drums. Another aspect I think of being musical is not being afraid to be creative. You know, you could play with the snare, then you can play, you know, things like that. Whatever you choose, you're still thinking about the tune. That's for me, a large foundational part of how I get to be creative and how I get to play with wherever I'm going, because I'm like, oh, okay, I have that tune in my mind, and it's in there pretty strong. And then I could always venture off because I know where I am by thinking of the tune and thinking of what was played and thinking of the space, the things that weren't played. Sometimes as a drummer, you're playing time and you're filling in, you're comping and you're filling in aspects of the melody or places, the holes in between things, or you and the pianist are together, you know, playing off of some ideas or whatever have you. Those kinds of things are the basis for you to stay musical and to be musical when it comes to playing drums, in my opinion, that is. Yeah, so... with playing with the melody and being musical in that way. I would also say being musical is also playing the space, leaving some room sometimes. I don't want to forget that. That's an aspect of being musical too, you know, letting things breathe, like making a bold statement and letting it breathe for a second. You know, know, whatever you choose, giving it room. Because sometimes that breath is the very thing that makes your next statement so much more musical, so much more beautiful. It's so much stronger, so much more conveyed. You know, it's like you starting a solo and you go. Whatever you do, it's like, oh man, okay, cool. It gives a cool and explosive kind of aspect, sometimes leaving space and leaving room for being musical and playing. You know, you can play the rims. You can keep playing around with things and just see how many timbres and how many cool aspects of the instrument, and, you know, playing with different tools, you know, mallets, or playing with brushes. You know, whatever you do that's expansive with the instrument and the many tools that you may have in your arsenal. You know, mallets. If you have mallets, that's a completely different voice and volume and aspect to playing the drums, and it brings out a different timbre of the drums. You know, it brings out a different swell of the drums. There's so many aspects of the drums that you can play along with and explore while having a foundation of, okay, I'm playing this particular tune, and if I go back and look at it from, you know, a recording from a John Coltrane, or, you know, a recording from whomever, you know, Horace Silver or McCoy Tyner, or any great musical predecessor, you can see a few different things, different aspects of the music, and let that be your guide to being musical. You know, let that be a starting point, a good vantage point to go from, and then just play around and be really, really, really have fun with it. I mean, there's so many great musicians and so many different avenues you can take information from and learn from and benefit from. So I would say, you know, learn the melodies of tunes. If you can, learn song lyrics. That's another beautiful way to be musical. If you know a song is sad, you know, you'll think, okay, well, wow, those lyrics are heavy. Maybe I shouldn't be trying to play this like bright and bouncy. Maybe I should be, you know, a little more subtle and a little more thought-provoking with my choices. That's one aspect of being musical. In the jazz idiom, and I mean pretty much any genre of music, to be honest.
Get past the people, get past the hitman. Get on down like, I wanna get on the good foot. Good foot. I got to get on the good foot. Going down to the crib, let all hang out. Well, sober people knows what it's about. Going down to the crib and let it all hang out. Well, sober people knows what it's about.
I chose the good foot. And I chose that because it's just funky and it feels really good. And I think that that's a great example of how you can be musical in a different way. Because in jazz, I find that it's more about being expressive and having a lot more to say, with rudiments and different figures and things. And in funk, I find that the groove and what you have to say is more of focused in on how you play a groove. Like I was talking about before, Jimmy Cobb had that bounce on the swing pattern that had you feeling a certain thing. It's the same concept when you're playing a funk tune, I feel anyways. And, you know, anyone else who wants to chime in, please do. If you have any questions about that or you want to have a little fun conversation about it, please, you know, pose a question, pose a statement, you know, let's talk. But I feel like playing funk grooves are similar in that way, where they have a specific bounce and they have a feeling to offer. And, you know, the good foot, when I'm singing it and I'm starting to get myself involved in what I think and what I recall from what I heard and how I internalized it, how it feels, so that when I go to play it, I can do the same thing when I'm playing it. I can convey what I feel it felt like and hopefully be close to what it felt like. So, you know. To me, that's what the good foot felt like, you know. That has a different bounce, but it still has a bounce. It still has something that it gets in your body and it's physical, and that makes it musical, and that makes it relatable. That makes you understand it in a certain way. To me, that's the aspect of being musical. Musical is a very basic level of conversation. It's a nice way of conveying the message, plain and simple. You know, plain and simple. So, you know. Regard would be playing the groove and trying to make it feel as close to the record as you could, because with James Brown grooves, it's a lot of repetition. It's a lot of playing the same thing, and the deeper you play it and the longer you play, the deeper it goes, and hopefully the deeper it goes here and the deeper it goes there. So that's a different kind of being musical. It's conveying that feeling. Same concept as, you know, Cobb playing that swing and bounce in a certain way. Same concept. It's just in a different, has a different pizzazz on it. It has a different splash on it, you know. It's painted a little differently, but it's still a beautiful picture. So yeah, I would say in that regard, learn how to play the groove and then learn how to let it breathe and focus on, even if you're not playing, you know, full on. You you're still feeling that feeling. That feeling is still being conveyed, you know? To me, those are cool ways of being musical. I mean, that groove right there is the song. So again, learning the song, learning the hits, you know, learning what is appropriate for what you're playing is a great aspect of being musical on the drums. Learning that different types of strikes, you know, different, again, timbres give you a different message playing the drums. So, you know, in jazz, we have the littlest nuance to the greatest, you know, bang or the greatest sound produced. And in other styles of music, it's not as dramatic, but it's equally as powerful. It's conveyed in great ways. So, you know, if you're going to play a funk tune and you're going to play a James Brown record, you know, whatever, in that style, you know, you make sure you're striking the drum, trying to get that snare drum to feel a certain way. Make sure you're trying to get the hi-hat to feel a certain way. It's all relative to what you are playing. So I would say being musical would be understanding the style in which you're playing, learning some of the vocabulary for the style in which you're playing, and learning the melody, and or lyrics, and learning that there's plenty of different ways that you can approach playing these tunes. Listen to the original, you know, try to get that, settle that in your soul a certain way, because if you do it, it'll only help you be expressive and have room to express yourself in other ways, because you'll know where you are. And that applies to funk tunes, that applies to Latin tunes, that applies to any music, I feel, that you're playing. Honor the music, first and foremost, and enjoy yourself. That would be my things to remember when being musical on the drums. Again, thank you to Bronx Music Heritage Center for having me. My name is Lucianna Padmore. Please do come again. Keep watching the percussion discussion, and I'll see y'all around. Groove and love.
Wasn't that great? Special thanks to the great Lucianna Padmore. Don't forget, Percussion Discussion is here every week on the BMHC Facebook page. Next week, I'll be covering the basics of the techniques used for the timbales for the cha-cha-cha, the bolero, and the danzón. For Percussion Discussion and my other co-artistic director, Elena Martinez, my name is Bobby Sanabria. See you next week.